What is going on, everybody? This is Joey of Underage Packers welcoming you to episode 42. Today, Big B is in Detroit to get in some treatment for his cancer. He's still fighting out there. So joining me today is another buddy of mine from Instagram. It's Packers franchise or Todd.
Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. I appreciate it. It's going good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing, pretty good. I mean,
Yep.
a nice, very relaxing win last night,
Mm-hmm.
especially after that devastating loss to the Colts. But, I'm
Yep.
really glad to have you on. And before we get talking about Packers football,
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about before, but I just want to give my thoughts and wishes to Big B. I know
Absolutely.
I saw a few videos, and I know I don't really know him well, but I just want to let him know that I got your back. And if you ever need anybody to talk to or reach out
Yeah.
to, I'm always here for anybody. We all behind you and go Pack go.
Yeah, and I will say to you, you better be careful what you say about Jamal Williams. Sometimes Big B, he still listens to every episode, even when he's not here, and he tells me everything wrong I said about Jamal Williams. So you better be careful against his son right there, or
Nah,
I guess his
Jamal
father.
Jamal Williams the goat.
The GOAT. All right, so me and Todd, our Packers franchise, are going to be looking at Packers, like you said, relaxing win over the Chicago Bears. Their 100th win in franchise history over Chicago. It was a great one. Um, so let's start before we get into any quarter by quarter or looking at any plays. I really feel like this was probably the best Packer game in 2020 as far as plays goes. Just being able to score 41 points on a top 10 defense is unbelievable. Do you think we've had a game where everything was firing on all cylinders like this so far this season?
Well, great question because I actually made a post last night saying, this is the team that I've wanted to see all season long.
Yeah.
Right before the game started, we have an NFC North chat on Packers DM. I said, if Green Bay can have a well-rounded game, play all four quarters, and blow out the Chicago Bears, I think they're the best team in the NFC.
Oh, yeah. And that was the big thing. I think a lot of Packers fans, and I talked about this last week when we were looking back at the Colts game, the fact that we've had three NFC championship heartbreakers the past 3 years. And you look back at those, besides 2014, 2016, and 2019, the Packers were nowhere near to the dominant team in the NFC. And they were really underdogs, and everybody was thinking, how did they get this far?
Hmm.
Um, so to be able to, people want the Packers to be something that they aren't a lot of the times. They want them to be like the 49ers of last year. And we have Aaron Rodgers. We're going to make the playoffs every year. It's just that people want that something extra. They want to be, I guess, a 2010 team, but even in 2010, I really don't think they were a starkly dominant team in the NFC.
No.
Uh, yeah, I mean, they were the sixth seed. They came in there. They didn't have a single home game. Um, they beat their division rival Chicago Bears. They beat a really tough Atlanta Falcons team, the first seed. So,
Hmm.
they got some really tough matches and wins in that 2010 season. But let's talk about another Bears beating. It did include a defensive touchdown again. So, we'll get to that a little bit later with Preston Smith. But in the first quarter, Devontae Adams gets a magnificent touchdown catch. I really love this play. I mean, Rodgers has all the time in the world, and he has a really similar throw to Alan Lazard later in the game, but he just dots it in there for Devontae Adams. I mean, it's a good start. Bears put up three. Money Mason letting us down, missing one. But now, getting to the second quarter, we're going in 6-3. And I really think the big difference in this game is they were able to get those big plays that they have been missing. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, in Minnesota, when they lost to Minnesota, they weren't able to get those big plays. Indy, they gave all the big plays away to the Colts. Do you think, I mean, how important were those big plays in the second quarter that put the game away? I mean, a Darnell Savage interception, a Preston Smith fumble six. Um, how did you see? Is there any possibility for the Packers, or what are their chances to win this game without getting those explosive plays in that second quarter?
Yeah, and before I actually answer that question, you mentioned about the Devontae Adams catch. I want to talk about that play Lazard
Oh
because
yeah,
that was an incredible play. At
absolutely.
first glance, it seemed like it was just like too much pressure, just throw it away. But I
Mhm.
saw Lazard go up to grab it. But the big thing to answer your question now is they actually brought pressure.
Yeah.
And that was something they didn't do in their 3 losses, especially in the second half against the Colts and the Vikings. They just weren't be able to bring pressure to
Hmm.
the quarterback, and that was the biggest key factor in that game. Trubisky was uncomfortable when they brought pressure, and
Hmm.
granted, it's Mitch Trubisky,
Yeah.
but
Even if he is comfortable, he's not going to do anything special.
no, I mean, and this is you know starting quarterback. I mean, obviously Green Bay known for a few years, but like I said, they brought pressure to him. That's the big key to a win.
Yeah. And, Mitch Trubisky isn't going to do anything special, but I mean, if you give him some time in the pocket, you let him get outside the pocket, he can dart you up a little bit. And he was still getting passes to the outside all day. I'm not sure what that problem was. I think Kevin King was struggling with Darnell Mooney and his speed over there. But yeah, put in pressure. Those big plays were really important. I was hoping Preston Smith would pay homage to BJ Raji and do a discount double check or like a.
Yes,
I don't know if he has the weight to do a belly jiggle like BJ, but we miss you, BJ. I guarantee you, BJ was sitting there watching that game last night. Uh,
he was
third
all
quarter.
smiles.
Oh yeah, he's got some big three family meal from KFC, and he's just enjoying the pack cream. I know he does that every Sunday. I'm good buddies with him. Third quarter, great throw to wide open Bobby Tunyon gets Rodgers to 50,000 yards. I mean, can we just talk about that? The fact that there's only 11 quarterbacks to ever surpass 50,000 career passing yards, and
Hmm.
two of them are Green Bay Packers. Absolutely insane. And I mean, that just goes to the point. The Packers are so lucky. And it really sucks that our 70 and 80 decades were not the best, to say the least. But to have Bart Starr and then just 2 decades later have Brett Favre, and then it's unbelievable. There cannot be enough said about it. And that's why the Jordan Love pick is so desirable to me. But, that's another talk for another day, 3 years from now.
Right? But and the biggest thing, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but the most impressive thing, honestly, is when NBC showed a stat line. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
think, 3 years he was benched, and 2 seasons he was out for half the year.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it is. You look at that and you're like, wow. I mean, sure, the Bears have one lousy Super Bowl, to quote the Bears Still Suck song. But, yeah, they showed that stat line of quarterbacks against Bears quarterbacks versus the Packers and Packers quarterbacks versus the Bears. The Bears' highest leading total was 16 from, was it Sid Luckman? And then you have Bart Starr ahead of him, one ahead of him, where he was tied with him. And then Aaron Rodgers at 50, Bart Starr or Brett Favre at 53. Like, since the 1992 season, the Packers have dominated Chicago, which is always a great feeling. And then we'll talk about Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones a little bit later. But third quarter pretty much put the game away. The fourth quarter was really interesting. I guess, I mean, after with 8 minutes left, I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch the rest of this. Defense kind of gave up. I mean,
mhm.
how concerning. I mean, we had a big lead, and sure, if we do that when we have a, 27, 30-point lead, it's all right. But, I mean, how concerning do you think that is that the Packers, I mean, in week one, they aren't able to really close out games on defense?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. You brought up there. I mean, granted, like I said again, it's Mitchell Trubisky, so
Mhm.
we can't do that against teams like Tennessee,
Yeah.
Kansas City. But granted, fourth quarter was boring, if we're
Yeah.
gonna be honest. I mean, like in a good way, easy touchdowns, because then it gets closer, and you're thinking to yourself,
Yeah.
oh boy, we definitely got ourselves in a little bit of rust. But I think for this game it was okay to do that, but you can't do that against like great teams like Tennessee,
Yeah, and
Kansas
I think
City.
a lot of it has to do with Mike Pettin easing up and playing soft, which is a tendency we've known all too well from him.
Hmm.
Um, and it really just didn't feel like the defense was. I mean, they were on to Philadelphia. They might as well have been preparing for Tennessee in that fourth quarter. Um, so we'll see. And I think, playoffs, you can't expect that. You
Hmm.
can't, just because, they're going to be much more in it.
Oh yeah, and there's also a lot of. I mean, this was fun about NFL this year. There's really no favorites.
Absolutely. I mean, even in the AFC, we'll see what the Steelers can do, what they put up against the Chiefs.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we'll just have to watch that. The NFC is wide open as of now. Um, so I was talking about Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. They combined for over 160 rushing yards. And the Bears without Akeem Hicks, they were really hurt with their star defensive
Yeah,
tackle.
big
And
loss.
I mean, Aaron Jones was able to he just runs up the middle for 10 or 12 yards there, every play. Aaron Rodgers makes some Aaron Rodgers type plays, and then all of a sudden we're up by 41.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, do you expect going into December when the run game is going to become a lot more popular for all 32 teams? How much do you expect to be more of a running back by committee with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams?
Well, I mean, has an excellent question too, and I think it all comes down to what kind of run it is. Because I don't know if you saw a little bit of what NBC said. They did
Mhm.
those change direction runs,
Oh yeah.
in which with Aaron Jones, he excels in that.
Hmm.
I mean, and so did Jamal Williams.
Uh-huh.
Jamal Williams has like, you know, great runs too.
Yeah.
I think down the road, because I mean, if you look at our schedule, Philadelphia, listen, we better win this game by 14 points. There's no
Yeah.
excuses. Detroit's gonna be tough at Detroit. It's always
Mhm.
tough. Week 15, we play
Carolina.
Carolina Saturday night.
Yeah. Oh
That'll be a
boy.
fun game too. And then
Tennessee Sunday night, and that
Tennessee, that's
ended
the
off in
game.
Chicago. So yeah, I agree. I mean, we have to see, like you said, Jamal Williams. No slight to him, but he's definitely better at just going through the offensive line. Um,
Yeah,
and
Jamal's more of a, get in the line and just truck over
yeah,
people,
get
while
in your
Aaron Jones is more of a speedy guy.
get in your face and break a tackle. And I love Jamal Williams. I mean, a lot of big guys like that. I mean, you see him break a few tackles and then they just slow down. But I mean, Jamal, if he can break one or two, find the hole and he's gone. I mean, he can really have some explosive plays. I mean, that's exactly what
Oh
he
yeah.
did on his 13-yard touchdown in the third quarter. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. And that brings us to another point. Aaron Rodgers has plenty of weapons. I hate to talk about the draft anymore, but you look at it, it's like no,
Hmm.
I don't know how much better this team would be with a first round wide receiver or whatever you would like to call it. And his tight ends were phenomenal all that game. That's all he needs. I feel Aaron Rodgers has all the weapons that he needs to make a deep playoff run, and so they're not so on called wasting his prime. Um,
Oh
how would
yeah.
you say your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' weapons or offensive weapons have changed since the start of the year?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Two things that stood out to me from like his championship run and
Hmm.
to that 2014 season, because that was like the last time they really had like a well-balanced team.
Yeah.
And I think the tight end position is a big change and
Hmm.
big improvement. Same with the running game, because I mean, Eddie Lacy, yeah, he had his great 1 year,
Yeah.
but he was never consistent.
Hmm.
Aaron Jones has always been consistent, and same with Jamal Williams. Aaron Rodgers never really had a dynamic 1-2 punch at the running back position,
Yeah.
and same with a great tight end group with
Mhm.
Robert Tunyon and Mercedes Lewis, which is an excellent blocking tight end.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point there. The running game has always been a point of focus for Packers fans that it's never there. I mean, we were rolling with James Starks for years on in there. He was literally with us for 6 years.
Love James Starks.
Yeah, I love me some James Starks, but this first time Aaron Rodgers not only has a top 5 running back on his hands, but has a top 10 at least running 1-2 punch. So
Hmm.
that should be really exciting. That's becoming more and more common in the NFL today, especially with what Kyle Shanahan is doing in San Francisco. So I'm really excited for that, and we'll see how far I can take them in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's this brings up a question too. I know we mentioned running backs and tight ends.
Hmm.
But earlier in the year, I mean, I criticized the wide receiver position. Obviously, Devontae Adams is amazing, but how would you feel with the rest of the wide receiver group? Do you think we should have got Will Fuller, or do you think, nah, this is perfect for rest of the season?
I think the wide receiver group is right where it's at, right where it needs to be. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then Matt LaFleur's offense is going to involve a lot more tight ends, and Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are both phenomenal in the passing game. So, sure, it would be nice to be able to run like a 2011 McCarthy offense and go five wide every play. But that's not what this offense is made for. So I'm fine with, having those three really reliable guys. And then, there's a lot of guys that like Mark or Malik Taylor, Equanimous St. Brown, Darius Shepard, who, despite his fumble last week, I think a lot of those three guys have a lot of room to develop.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and how much they can contribute to the team, I'm not sure. Um, but I think they are definitely right where they need to be.
Oh yeah, and I know I mentioned for people that follow my page, I was harsh on the GM for
Oh yeah.
because at the time, because I believe it was like the loss to Minnesota. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was. Um,
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't really feel like this team took a step forward. I feel like it was the same thing as last year because
Mhm.
the teams we won at that point, they were like,
Yeah.
losing record teams, and the teams we face are physical.
That loss against Minnesota is really the only one where I think you can say if they had a better wide receiver in that game, they possibly win it.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point, but I feel like, that defense, and listen, Dalvin Cook's amazing too,
Yeah.
but I feel like it was just Packers versus Dalvin Cook that game. The
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings were not impressive at all, other than Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. I mean, they're just saying about that. It's, the offense had plenty of opportunities as well, I think, in that
Hmm.
game. Uh, and then they go out there, get a 3-and-out because they were looking 30 yards down the field. Nobody was open. EQ drops two in a row. Not that they were the best of throws or opportunities, but um, he wasn't able to be better than
Oh
he
yeah,
was before.
yeah. I didn't mean to jump straight to a different question, but I just thought that was interesting. We're talking about positions.
Absolutely. So another point here, Elton Jenkins. I mean, talking
Stud.
about Brian Gutekunst, right now, that was a great night last night for his 2019 draft class. Rashawn Gary putting pressure on the quarterback, finally taking snaps away from Preston Smith. Darnell Savage, 2 interceptions. Elton Jenkins is being Elton Jenkins. I really like what I saw from them. Um, I mean, Elton Jenkins, I don't know what to say about him. There's just he's only in his second year, and you would have thought he's been playing in the NFL for 10 years, considering his versatility,
Yeah.
how seamlessly he can take over any position. I mean, and that's something the Packers have valued. I was talking with Aaron Nagler about the Sonar episode with him. The Packers strongly value that versatility on the offensive line with John Runyon, who they just drafted this year, Jake Hansen. I mean, John Runyon is definitely he played all three positions on the offensive line in college, and then they like to draft versatile offensive linemen. Billy Turner has played all over the offensive line pretty much. Lucas Patrick, who can play center, guard. So, you got to feel really comfortable. I mean, obviously, you would love to have your ideal offensive line out there all the time. But if one goes down, I feel we have all the power in the world to seamlessly transition, move one guy over to another position.
Oh yeah.
But finally, I really do you have any other takes, messages from this Bears game?
I mean, overall though, I feel like this is the Packers team that we as fans wanted to see since
Yeah.
that devastating. Because since that Bucks loss,
Oh yeah.
it hasn't been the same really.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Francisco, but half the roster were injured. So like, I mean, great win against the Rams, but
Yeah.
but This was the most complete game that they played since that loss.
Yeah,
And I feel like that
and that's
should bring a spark.
hmm that's why I think not being able to put it away in the fourth quarter is kind of like missing it. But it's not really needed. That's just perk points. But yeah,
Hmm.
I agree with you. This is the most complete game, and all we've been seeing all season. A lot of players having great games, but when are they going to put it all together? And like Aaron Rodgers emphasized in his press conference last week, when are they going to play a game where all three cylinders of all three sides of the ball are working together, helping each other out? They did that. They had the defense scoring points. They had the defense getting turnovers. And I mean, the offense was able to have long, successful drives, helping the defense out by not exhausting them. And
Hmm.
overall, a great game by the Green Bay Packers.
Was.
Well, I mean, even the special teams, they didn't mess up too bad.
No. I mean,
Well,
that's, yeah.
yeah, we can only count our lucky stars. J.K. Scott actually did some good stuff. I will never slander J.K. Scott. And Hunter Bradley had a Pro Bowl performance. I don't know about you, but that's what I saw from that
Hmm.
game. All right. Well, Packers franchise, I thank you for joining me. I do just want to say, I mean,
Yeah, go
for
for it.
those, I mean, I have a bigger following on Twitter now and just doing this podcast. But I mean, I have a page on Instagram, and this man right here is the reason that all of that happened.
No, I appreciate it, buddy. I mean, when you first sent me that message saying, like,
Yeah.
you inspire me, I mean, honestly, it was lost of words because I never really thought in my life I would have someone just looking up to my page. Like, I just
Mhm.
do it for fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, and I that's the great thing about just starting this podcast. I mean, I've been able to talk to so many people that were, I mean, just a few months ago, people that were Twitter gods to me, and it's just great to be able to talk about them, Packers football.
Yeah, no, and my message to people, and before I do that, I mean, you and Big B are definitely doing an amazing job with this podcast. I really think you guys have a lot of potential to be successful down the road. Just keep working hard and keep, being yourself. And to anybody that want to start something like a podcast or you know, a page, whether it's dedicated to Packers or sports in general, go for it. I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing's, yeah.
you're always waiting for that special opportunity, I think, and you're not going to get to anywhere. You're not going to get that opportunity until you just do it. I think
Hmm.
is the biggest thing.
And people always ask me, I had a question in college the other year. 'Cause I told them about my page, and they're like, "How many people follow your page?" I'm like, "About 25,000." They're like, "Wow." And I'm just like, "Well, what do you mean, wow? Like, that's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of people, but like, I don't want to be like, oh, I have this many followers, because every follower is important.
Yeah,
I treat my followers as like, they're people that I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know where
25,000
I'm going with
people. It's a
this.
lot of people. Well,
It is.
yeah, make sure you add to his 25,000 and follow Packer Franchise on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at Underage Packers. We have all the updates, all the Jamal Williams memes, all that good stuff. And we'll be back this Friday. Maybe Big B will be back. We'll have to see. But thanks everybody for watching. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack, go.